Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to this companion video here on my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea. Now, what is a companion video? Well, I'm glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, in the mornings and on open mic in the afternoons, we take live questions from the audience. But we don't always have time to get around to all of the live questions that come in. So to make sure your questions do get answered, I gather up those questions that we didn't have time for, and we bring them over here and do them on these companion videos. So with that out of the way, let's get right to it. And the first question we're getting caught up on today comes to us from John Early, who writes, how often do you go to the concession stand for soda, pop, and popcorn before the movie starts? Well, just once. Now, here's the thing. Everybody always asks me, what's your go-to snack at the movies? And I'm very vanilla when it comes to that. I am a popcorn and soda guy. I never have popcorn. Like, Anne buys popcorn all the time to eat at home, like microwave popcorn, whatever, and I'll eat it, but I never crave it. But when I go to the movie theaters, it's so ingrained into my psyche now that as soon as I walk into a movie theater, it's like a Pavlovian response. It's like the bell rings and the dog salivates. I walk into a movie theater, I salivate, and I go for the soda and popcorn. Thing is, with my A-list, with my AMC Stubs membership, I get free upgrades to large on everything anyway. So I always get large popcorn, large soda, and that holds me over till the end of the movie. All right, let's go on to the next question. Grandmaster writes, over under 5% that Lion King in 2019 makes $2 billion worldwide. That's a good line. 5% is a good line on that. I will take over. Not by much, but I will take the over. See, some people are proclaiming that, oh, it's automatic. Lion King's going to make $2 billion. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I don't think it's any kind of automatic. I don't think it's any sort of a sure thing that that's going to happen. But it's certainly possible. Possible enough. Now, I think if you're going to set that over and underline down at around 5%, I'd feel pretty comfortable taking the over. Now, if you said 15, 20%, I'd probably take the under on that. But look, Lion King is going to make a ton of money. There are a lot of people out there like me that consider it to be the greatest animated film of all time. To me, that is. I know it is to a bunch of other people as well. On top of that, we already saw the huge success that Jon Favreau had with Jungle Book. Now he's going to bring that magic to Lion King. $1 Billion Club is an automatic in my mind. As long as the movie's good. I mean, if the movie's crap, all bets are off. $1 Billion Club's an automatic in my mind. $2 billion, unlikely, but I will take the over on 5%. All right, Kyle Brackman writes, what are your thoughts on the Halloween series? Well, I've talked a lot about that all the time, but especially recently. I'm actually not a fan of the Halloween series, of any of them. I honestly don't like the first Halloween. I think it's overrated. I haven't liked any of the other Halloweens ever since. Now, that being said, the moment the new trailer for the new Halloween came out, it actually got me on board. Like at first when they were talking about, oh, they're doing a new Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and I love Jamie Lee Curtis, but it's like, John, are you excited for it? I'm like, no, I don't care about the Halloween series. I just don't. But even as somebody who doesn't care about the Halloween series, when that trailer came out for it, I'm like, okay, this looks interesting. And then the most recent trailer came out, and I'm like, okay, I'm on board. Now, I don't know if the movie's going to be good or not. I'm hearing good things about it, but I just don't know. But I will say this. As somebody who's not interested in the series, the trailers have got me very intrigued for this movie. So what can I say, man? I'm looking forward to it. All right. Matthias Gretchen writes, man, the way you combine persistent work ethic with crazy geekiness is just truly inspiring. Keep it up. Best wishes from Germany. Well, thank you so much for that, Matthias. I really appreciate that. Yeah, but you know what? I work very hard. You guys see how many videos I crank out every day. I work very hard, but you know what? It's a privilege. It's an honor and it's a privilege, and I get to hang out with the film fan community like you guys. It's just awesome. The fact that I get to do this for a living is just triple bonus. You know what I'm talking about? So to me, it's great. The honor's all mine, but thank you for the kind words, Matthias. I really appreciate that. Hands of Stone writes, John Ruse the Killer or Leon the Professional. To me, that's easy. It's Leon the Professional. No disrespect to John Ruse the Killer, but Jean Reno, by the way, Jean Reno is a highly underrated actor. I'm actually very surprised he didn't break out to be a bigger star in North America than he did, but whatever. Jean Reno's great. Of course, you got young Padme Amidala with Natalie Portman. You got Gary Oldman is in it. It's just a classic. It's a classic. Again, no disrespect to John Woo's The Killer, but The Professional is like one of those films that kind of helped... It's one of those films that kind of helped mold me into becoming a film fan. I'm not saying The Professional is in my top 10 of all time. It's not, but it's definitely one of those films that helped mold my fandom of movies an awful lot. So, yeah, I'm going to give that edge to Leon the Professional. All right, Corel VDW writes, what do you think of Matthias Schoenarts, if I'm saying the name right? It's always nice to see people from my country succeed internationally, especially in the U.S. I'm not really sure who he is. I think he's the dude. I believe he was in The Danish Girl. I think, if I'm thinking of the right guy. Hold on a second. Let me just bring it up here. He is best known for... Bullhead the Drop. And yes, it is the dude from The Danish Girl. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Other than the fact that I just went over a Danish Girl like 6 months ago with a fine-tooth comb, that's the only reason why I even remotely remember the dude's name. I really don't know anything about him other than that. He was in he was the assassin dude in Red Sparrow. Oh, I liked him in that. Other than that, I really don't know much about him, and I don't know enough of his filmography to really have an informed opinion about that. I remember liking him in Danish Girl. I remember liking him in Red Sparrow, but that's honestly as far as I can go on that. But by the way, I think a lot of people are like that. You kind of cheer for people from your home country. Like, how often do you hear me say, good Canadian kid, about, any kind of actor that happens to be from Canada? I do that too. You do that. We all do it. It's a natural thing for us to do. All right. Patrick Conway writes, saw Boy in the Striped Pyjamas when I was 8 or 9. With my school. My teacher thought it would be a sweet movie. It's funny. Somebody brought up Boy in the Striped Pyjamas last week on the show. And just one of the most gut punch endings ever. It's powerful and sweet and horrible emotionally. Horrible emotionally. And with the title like The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, about the child of Nazis and a child of Jewish parents becoming friends. Oh, that sounds so sweet. And then it punches you in the balls at the end. And it takes you months to recover. So it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine seeing that at 8 or 9. But hey, you know what? Give some credit to your teacher. I can totally see why they probably thought this might be okay for us. But clearly it was not. Always review the films first before showing it to kids. Chef Cook writes, besides Captain Marvel, is there any new character coming to the MCU? Oh, I can only imagine many. I mean, we heard recently Kevin Feige talk about the fact that, we're going to see a lot more female-led superhero films. But he said, we've got a lot of announcements coming. I assume a lot of those, because of the context in which he said it, there's going to be a lot of female-led movies, but also others as well. So I don't know what those are. I wish I did, but I don't. But yes, I think with the way Kevin Feige's been talking, I think we can expect to see a lot of new characters we've never seen before in the MCU making their appearance pretty soon. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Grandmaster writes, have you seen the TV series Dark Angel? Yes, that's the one Jessica Alba got her start on. From James Cameron with Jessica Alba. I was surprised how good it is. Jessica Alba's best role, in my opinion. I will agree with you on that. However, with the asterisks, that's not actually saying that much. Look, I adore Jessica Alba. She seems really smart and really sweet. She's an amazingly beautiful woman on top of all of that. But I will be frank, I've never found her to be that compelling of an actress. I've never found her to be that good of an actress. So I will agree with you that her best stuff was in Dark Angel. But that's not necessarily saying a lot. So I thought Dark Angel was good. I liked Dark Angel. I didn't think it was great, but I liked it. But again, saying it's her best work isn't not really saying all that much. Prolapsed Anus writes, you absolutely got to check out Fargo on FX. Man, I have a lot of people tell me that. One of the best written shows on TV with, I think, Billy Bob Thornton's all-time best screen performance. Oh, heart. Look, full confession, I have not seen the television version of Fargo. It is very difficult for me to believe that Billy Bob Thornton in it is better than he was in Sling Blade, which I think he won an Academy Award for that. Hold on a second. Sling Blade. Let's see. 1996. He did that one with Dwight Yoakam. Where's the awards? I know he at least got nominated for it. No, he got not. He won for Best Writing. Billy Bob Thornton won because Thornton also wrote the screenplay for that movie, and he won the Academy Award for that. But he was nominated for Best Actor in Leading Role for that. I kind of thought he won that in the back of my head. But I'll just say this. I have a very difficult time believing that he was better in anything than he was in that. But Prolapse, I have a lot of people telling me I need to check that show out. And maybe once I finally do, maybe I'll watch and go, huh, Prolapse was right. He was even better in this than in Sling Blade. So I'm going to have to wait and find out. All right, what's next here? Prolapse also follows up. Also, Black Mare. Yeah. A lot of people always talking about Black Mare. It's a sci-fi show centered around technophobia. It's an anthology, so it's a bit hit and miss. But when it's good, it's amazing. I've seen at least one. It's the one that won the Emmy Award for Best Episode or something like that. It's the one where the two girls meet and they fall in love, but they're in a virtual world when really like one is sick and dying and one is something I can't remember. But I saw that one and it was great. The one everybody keeps telling me I got to watch was one that's kind of a play on Star Trek, I think. But what it really is a commentary on fandom or something like that. That's the one a lot of people tell me I need to check out. So that one's got to be on my list. But yeah, perhaps a lot of people also telling me, on top of Fargo, or telling me Black Mirror is something I should watch. Of course, I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't have a lot of time for TV, but I'm trying to keep up with the stuff that you guys tell me I should watch. All right. Grand Master writes, Mary Poppins is still my favorite Disney film. I think a lot of people would agree with you. It also got almost most Oscar nominations of any movie in history, 13 nominations. Wow, yes it did. It did not get, however, 13 is not the record for most nominations. It was close. I know at least two films in history got 14 nominations. Those are Titanic and La La Land. There might have been another. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find most Oscar nominations. Okay, hold on a second here. Yeah, here we go. So there were three films that have more, that have at least 14. We got Titanic has 14, All About Eve has 14, and La La Land has 14. And then a whole crap ton that had 13, including Mary Poppins, Gone with the Wind, From Here to Eternity, Shakespeare in Love, Forrest Gump, Chicago, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Shape of Water, and there were actually a few more that I didn't grab on this graphic. So, yeah, 13. I believe it won 5. Let me just say on the straight. Yes, it won 5, including, of course, most notably, it won Julie Andrews, Best Lead Actress. I also, obviously, won Best Music that year as well. Did not win Best Picture that year, nor did it win Best Director. It was up for those. But yeah, it's an incredibly iconic film. I think every year at the Hollywood Bowl in Hollywood, they do a sing-along concert of it. I've never been to it, but I've heard it's a lot of fun. But I'm very, very excited for the new rendition of it coming in the end of December here with Emily Blunt in the lead role. I'm looking forward to that because I love the original as well. Not my all-time favorite Disney movie, but it definitely one of the all-time classics. I love it, and I cannot wait for this new incarnation of it too. All right. Alex Kahn writes, I think James Gunn should make an indie movie like Slither or Super, especially a team-up at Blumhouse. I don't know if I agree with that, and here's why. Obviously, I'm a big fan of James Gunn as a filmmaker. Slither is my all-time favorite film of his. It's one of the most all-time underappreciated films ever made. It's still shocking how many of you guys have not watched Slither. Watch it. It's awesome. Super is great. If you haven't seen his web series PG Porn, you should look that up. It's pretty great. And then, of course, his Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I think right now is not the time for him to do small indie. He's done small indie. He's done a bunch of small indie. Other than Guardians of the Galaxy, he hasn't been able to do anything else really big. And right now, with studios lining up to offer him high-profile projects, now is the time. You can go back and do smaller indie stuff whenever you want. You can do that whenever. You're not always going to be highly in demand, and you're not always going to have the opportunity to make the bigger stuff that you can imagine. Now's the time for him to take advantage of that. You know, in 5 years, he can go back and do some more indies and stuff like that. But he's not always going to be in a position where he can do just about anything he wants to do on whatever scale he wants to do it. Now, with all these studios lining up to work with him, now is the time to do that. So I disagree with you, Alex. I mean, don't get me wrong. If James Gunn decided to do a smaller indie film, I'd be all excited about it, sure. But if I was his friend and he asked me my advice, I'd say, now is not the time. You can do the smaller indies whenever you want. You only get so many opportunities in your career where you can take advantage of doing the bigger, broader, more imaginative things. And now you're being asked to do those things. Take advantage of that now. Because you may not have that same opportunity 3 years from now. But you'll always have the opportunity to go and do smaller indie stuff, even if it's with the Blumhouse. So I would say put the smaller stuff on the shelf for now. All right. Noah Rodgers writes, how much did you pay for your studio equipment? Well, a couple things to keep in mind about my studio gear. I have collected it over years, right? There's some stuff in here I've had for like 5 years. There's some stuff in here I've only bought this last year. I'd say altogether, well, I mean, like the camera I'm using right now is the most expensive thing I have. It's a $2,000 camera. So that probably represents about half, maybe a little bit less than half of what I've spent. I'm also very, very cheap. I'm very, very cheap. I have a couple of decently expensive microphones. They run about $300 a piece, or are much more expensive than that out there. But about $300 a piece. My lights, I've got really good lights, but I paid probably about $100 for my lights in total. Mic stands. My audio interface, I spent a good amount of money on. Spent about $400 on my audio interface. I'd say altogether probably about $4,500. Like if you don't count my computer, which I would have anyway, probably I'd spent about $4,500. That includes my desk, my chair, my mouse, my control surface, my audio interface, my mics, my cameras. Probably about $4,500 to $5,000. And again, that's not like I just went and dropped $5,000. That's probably over the course of 4 or 5 years that I've spent on it. Again, because I'm very cheap. And I try to do everything as with a really good compromise between as high quality as I can, but also being financially responsible, at the same time. So that's probably about how much I spent. Steven C20 writes, and now that the trailer is out, thoughts? I have no idea. You forgot to mention which trailer. So now that the trailer is out, thoughts? I have no idea. Also, did you finish Riverdale? No, I did not. I was into Riverdale Season 1. It was much better than I thought it would be. And then it became crap. And I would check in with Ann, because Ann and Kaori kept watching it. I kept checking with them. Is it getting any better? And they're like, no, it's getting worse. And they kept up with it. But they never report very big things about it. So no, I did not finish with Riverdale, and I probably will not finish up on Riverdale, which is too bad because I liked the first season. I thought the season was pretty good, actually, better than it had any business being. But then for me, it just kind of went off the rails, and according to some people I've talked to, it never really got back on the rails. Steven C20 follows up, is Man of Steel 2 ever happening? I am starting to lose hope. Me too, man. But it's important at this point in our history. It's important to keep a couple things in mind. The biggest of which is right now we are still in a period of time where we as an audience do not yet know where the new sheriff over at DC, that's Walter Hamada, where he is taking the DC universe right now. Like, right now, we just don't know. When he took over, I told everybody, from an audience point of view, it's going to take a couple of years before we see the effects of the change of leadership. He's already doing stuff, but it's going to be years before we see it. And before we can actually pick it out and see what they're doing. So I don't think they are even really sure if they're doing one or not. Now, a lot of people got very worried when it got announced that Henry Cavill was going to be playing the lead in the new Witcher series. But don't forget, guys, just because somebody's in a TV show, that doesn't mean they can't do movies too. I will say this. I'll become very worried about Henry Cavill's future in the DCEU if he gets he does have the Witcher role, but if he also gets the James Bond role after Daniel Craig, that could be concerning. That could be concerning. But again, even that wouldn't be 100% definitive, right? So we'll have to wait and see. Is it ever going to happen? I would still guess yes. That's guess, but would I even put $1 on that bet? Nope. Is it in trouble? I believe it's in, the concept of a Man of Steel 2 is in trouble. They may decide to go in a different direction. I mean, Walter Hamada may still decide to reboot at some point. I mean, we simply don't know. I don't think so anymore, but who knows? There's a lot of things up in the air. But if I had to just pure guess right now, I'm going to guess at some point we will get a Man of Steel 2. Whether or not it'll be Henry Cavill will be another question we'll have to address. Sebastian writes, AT&T owns DC Universe and HBO, right? Future of HBO. Well, now they own Time Warner, which owns HBO, and which owns Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers owns DC. So what's the future of HBO? I don't know. It's going to keep being HBO. I don't see how AT&T owning Time Warner, the parent company, is going to change anything at HBO. Necessarily, I don't know. But what's the future of HBO? They're still going to do their thing. I can't really see or don't really know of any big changes coming. Enja writes, you dislike best popular movie. Oh, it's an idiotic idea. Because it puts those movies at a kid's table. Do you think the same is true for best animated short foreign movie? Yes, no, and no. Yes on best animated movie. I've never liked the fact there's a best animated movie category. I've never liked it at all. Animated movies are movies. They're narrative storytelling movies. They're full-length feature narrative storytelling movies. It's just that the medium's a little different. That's all. It utilizes the medium of animation as opposed to the medium of live action. But they are still the exact same in their DNA as any other movie. The only reason they introduced a best animated category at the Oscars was to deal with the fact that like 8 out of 10 years, the number one critically rated movies of the year were animated films, and yet only one of those years did an animated film even get nominated for Best Picture. And it was becoming a problem at the Academy. And their idea, let's just give them their own category. I've never liked it. Don't get me wrong. I respect any movie that wins Best Animated. That's great. But, and it's here to stay. And it's not going anywhere at this point. But I have never hid the fact that I do not like, I think it was a bad move to create a Best Animated category. They just did it because they didn't really want to honor those films. And they knew they had to. So they came up with a booby prize. They came up with a B-list award to give it. And they created their own little category. Dumb. Short is different. In its DNA, short films are radically different than feature-length films. They're very, very different. The art that goes into them is incredibly different. The methods and techniques you use in your storytelling are radically different than what you do with big feature films. They're completely done on a separate level in a different way, and filmmakers have to approach them completely differently than they do with full-length feature films. In that sense, I believe short filmmaking is a different art. I believe it is a different art. And because of that, I actually have no qualms with them having a separate category from that because it is such a different thing. Much like documentaries. Documentaries on a DNA level are completely different than narrative storytelling in regular feature films. Therefore, I have no qualms with something that at a very DNA level is so radically different than all the other films. I have no qualms with them having their own thing. Animation, no difference in their DNA. The only difference is that it uses a different medium. Other than that, completely the same DNA narrative style. Foreign movies is a little different. Foreign film only exists to give some recognition to foreign films. That's it. It's very, very rare. Not completely unheard of. We see every couple of years a foreign film will sneak in and get a Best Picture nomination. The Academy is an American-based institution. The Academy Awards are very American-based awards. And I believe they do have this foreign film to give recognition to something that everybody else would probably never pay attention to. On that level, it is a secondary prize, but I understand the need to have it to honor and recognize films that a lot of people in North America would never even know exists. Is it a secondary prize? Yeah. Is it a kids' table prize? Honestly, yes, it is. But it gives the Academy an opportunity to remind the audience every year. There are these other films you've probably never heard of. People in other countries make great art and make great films. And it's just an opportunity to do that. You cannot say the same about Best Popular Film. There is functionally no need. There is no artistic call for the category of Best Popular Film. You can't even define what popular means. What does that even mean? What qualifies as a popular film at the Academy Awards? There's no artistic purpose for it. With foreign film, there is. Still a booby prize, still a secondary prize, still a kids' table prize, but I get why they do it. There's a noble purpose behind why they do it, just to remind the North American audience, there's great film that we never see on our screens. Short films, documentary are completely different in their DNA from other feature films, so I get that. Animated shouldn't be a category. But yeah, anyway, that's how I feel about all that. I don't get likes, writes, Venom flopping won't make Sony take Spider-Man back. Last time they tried a Spider-Verse with him, it didn't make it past 2 movies. They'll scrap. Oh no, you're wrong. There's nothing subjective or object. You're just wrong. I don't get likes. Whose name I love. I love that name. That's a great username. But no, you're wrong. And here's why. Can you name, out of the 5 Sony Spider-Man movies that Sony has made on their own, they did one with Marvel, that was Homecoming. But out of the 5 they did on their own, can you name the one that made under $500 million? $500 million at the box office. Can you name which one it was? Well, you can't because none of them made under $500 million. Can you name the Spider-Man film made exclusively by Sony that made under $600 million? $600 million. Out of the 5 they made, which one came under $600 million? The answer is none of them. All right. Out of the 5 Sony Spider-Man films that Sony's made on their own, can you name the Sony Spider-Man film that made under $700 million? A number that Justice League never even made. Out of the 5 Sony Spider-Man movies, which one made under $700 million? You can't name it because the answer is none. Every single Spider-Man film that Sony has ever made has all made over $700 million. They all fell in that major blockbuster range of $700 to $900 million. That's where they all lie. They all came in that. That means even the lowest Spider-Man movie has made more money than a ton of the MCU movies have. They've all made more money than Justice League has. A single character movie, and all of them made over $700 million. That's not subjective. That's fact. So, Sony wants to be in the superhero franchise game. They completely do. They believe they can do it without Spider-Man. Right now, they believe they have the opportunity to have their cake and eat it too. To cooperate with Marvel and have Spider-Man in the MCU, to which they make a ton of money. Not as much money as if they made it on their own, but they're still making a ton of money. So they think they get to have their cake and eat it too by making their own superhero cinematic universe without Spider-Man. We're going to find out if that gamble is true with Venom or not. But here's the thing. If Venom does not succeed, and it's got a lot of things going against it. Venom has a lot of things going against it. It also has a bunch going for it as well. But if it doesn't succeed, that does not change that Sony executives want them to be in the superhero franchise game. And if Venom don't work, and they become convinced we can't do this without our crown jewel, which is Spider-Man, you're damn right they're going to take him back. Because they can squat down and crap out a Spider-Man movie and it makes over $700 million. They've never done a single one that's made under $700 million. So, if you think for a second that Sony executives are just going to go, oh, Venom didn't work? Oh, I guess we just won't make our own superhero movies. We don't need to be in the superhero franchise game. You're crazy. Every studio right now is trying to figure out their angle for getting into the franchise thing, particularly with superheroes. Sony has the crown jewel. They have the rights to Spider-Man. If you think for a second that if Venom doesn't work, they're just going to go, oh, I guess we just won't do superhero we just won't endeavor to make our own. You're crazy. I'm telling you right now, if Venom doesn't work, and I don't know yet what work means. Hey, Venom makes $400 million worldwide. Is that a success? Maybe they consider that a success. Maybe they'll consider $300 million a success. Maybe they'll consider $350 million a success. Maybe they won't consider anything short of $500 million. Whatever their definition of success is. If Venom doesn't meet their criteria of success, I am telling you right now, Sony, behind the scenes, we won't hear about it, but behind the scenes are going to start to put into motion the mechanisms for them to get Spider-Man back from the MCU. And it's their right to do it, because the rights belong to them. They have an agreement right now that the MCU can use them, but ultimately Sony has all the power here. And I'm telling you, the Sony execs aren't just going to go, oh, Venom didn't work? Oh, well, I guess we won't be in the superhero franchise game. There's a reason. Why do you think Sony put such a small term limit on this deal? Why do you think Sony put such a limitation on the length of the deal? Because they knew they may be in a position in a few years that it would be best for them to take Spider-Man back. Otherwise, they would have signed a 15-film deal or a 12-year deal or something. Instead, they gave themselves just enough time to see if they could make this superhero franchise universe work without Spider-Man. And maybe they'll succeed. Maybe Venom will make $450 million worldwide. And that would be a good start. That would be a great start. So maybe they can make it work. And maybe they'll go, you know what? We got the building blocks here to keep Spidey in the MCU, so that's a win for us. And we've got the building blocks here now to make our own superhero universe without it. Great. But if Venom flops, and Sony goes, you know, we never made a single Spider-Man movie that made under $700 million. You're damn right. They're going to start behind the scenes, putting the gears in motion to get that web crawler back. They're going to put the gears in motion to get that going. So deny it all you want. stick our heads in the sand all we want, cry about it all we want. I'll do some crying. It ain't going to change the thing. If Venom flops, Sony ain't giving up on superhero franchise material, and they've got the ultimate trump card. They got Spider-Man. So, yeah, y'all, we better be cheering for Venom to work. We better be cheering for Venom to work. If you're like me, and you're really happy with the Sony and Marvel collaborations on the Spider-Man over in the MCU, then you and me, we better be cheering for Venom to work. Now, it either will or it won't, but we should be cheering for it. So, just something for us all to keep in mind. Let's see. Muse Tack Reviews writes, when are you seeing The Nun? Saw it, was disappointed in it. It's not a garbage movie. I put my review up. It's on my YouTube channel right now. Not a garbage film by any stretch of the imagination. It has some things going for it. It has some upside. I just thought the negative things kind of outweighed it, so ultimately I was a bit disappointed with it. Sebastian writes, why doesn't domestic box office totals include IMAX? Pretty sure it does. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I'm almost positive that it does. So I'll look into that a little bit. I don't want to take the time to do the research on it right now, but I'll look into that. But I'm almost positive it does include domestic IMAX screens. I'm pretty sure. Mike Hill writes, Battle of the Bears. What would you like to see most? Ted 3 or Paddington 3? And are any in development? You know what? Somebody asked me that exact same question earlier this week, and I don't think it was you, Mike, so great minds. That's easy. Paddington 3. Easy. I like the Ted movies very, very much. Very, very much. But I've gone on record to say, and I stand by it, if they ever make a Paddington 3, and it is at the same quality of Paddington 1 and 2, because those two movies are nothing short of outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Both of them. If Paddington 3 comes out and is anywhere near the same level as the first two, it is in the discussion of top 5 best trilogies of all time. I know it sounds weird to say that about Paddington. Believe me, if I could go back 5 years and hear myself say that right now, I'd look at myself crazy. But it's true. As Kurt Angle would say, it's damn true. So, yeah, I like Ted 1 and 2 very much. Ted 1 especially. Ted 2 is a bit of a step down, but has some great laughs in it. I love Ted 1. I love Ted 2. But no questions. Paddington, and no, I haven't heard about anything official about either. Now, I know they'd like to make another Paddington. I know they'd like to. It didn't do spectacular box, particularly in North America. They didn't do a good job marketing it here, but here's hoping they do make a Paddington 3 because the first two are outstanding. Let's see. Sebastian writes, why can Rhodey be recast and not Drax the Destroyer? Oh, he easily can. You know, I just talked on my companion video on Saturday that I actually believe it's the easiest thing for them to do. Like, Batista wants out, let him out. It'll suck, but let him out. And then just recast the role. And then you do what you did with Rhodey when you recasted him from Iron Man 1 to Iron Man 2 with Don Cheadle. Remember Don Cheadle's first line in Iron Man 2? Yeah, it's me. Get used to it. Or get over it, right? It was both a line to Tony Stark and a line to the audience. Yup, it's me. I'm Rhodey. Get over it. Right? So it was a little bit of a wink to the audience. Everybody laughed. And from then on out, Don Cheadle was Rhodey. No problem. Do the exact same thing. Let's say, I don't know, for argument, I'm just pulling a name out of my ass. Just say for argument's sake, you get Triple H. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is your new Drax the Destroyer. Okay, just for argument's sake. What you do is you have Star-Lord go up to Drax and say, make a joke out of it. You do something different with your hair and just have him as Drax go, no, I look the same I always do. Okay, and then that's it. A little joke to the audience, and everybody now understands this is our new Drax. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's probably the best way for them to handle it, I think. Let's see. Sveen86 writes, have you seen the trailer for the new Netflix movie 22 July? It's about the attack on Utøya Island in Norway on July 22nd, 2011. I did see that the other day. Looks like a low-budget film, but it also looks incredibly moving and incredibly powerful. And I'll be honest with you, I know nothing about this story. Like, I was seeing it's all based on true events. And I'm like, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this incident. And oh my God, this looks powerful. This looks so powerful. So I have seen the trailer. I thought it looked great, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. Okay. Call of Duty God writes, hint, John, your Hollywood crush is in scene. This check is for $1,400. We agreed upon $1,000. Why don't I give you back $400? I think... Is that Catch Me If You Can? I think that's Catch... I could be wrong about that. But is my Hollywood crush is Jennifer Garner. Is she in that scene? I can't even remember. I have no idea. Is Jennifer Garner in that movie? I have no idea. Well, that's an interesting one. Now I'm going to have to go and look that up when we're all done here. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the companion videos. Thank you so much for joining me here. Don't forget, guys, the John Campea Show returns, of course, Monday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 12 noon on the East Coast. Make sure you guys join me then. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here and being film fans with me. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.